Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode here on Eat Sleep Reef. And this week we're going to be covering a video that I think a lot of you are going to find useful, and more importantly because it's kind of a phase that I'm going through right now with my tank. Already having the quarantine up, it hasn't been running, it hasn't cycled, but it's already pretty much ready for water. One thing I have considered was to start adding fish meanwhile the main tank cycles. So while the main display tank is cycling, we're obviously going to be able to quarantine fish, so by the time the tank is cycled we can probably add fish, quarantine fish, towards the end. Now, one important conversation to have when it comes to adding fish, and I think I'm going to do this video in two ways. One, it's going to be today's video that you're watching, and there's going to be a future one a little bit more asking you guys what type or in what order should I put the tangs I'm looking to put in the reef tank. But in this week we're going to do kind of, let's say you're newer to the hobby, you're starting a reef tank and you're wondering what are some good fish I could add and what should I be looking for at my LFS. I considered doing this video like I've done one in the past with voiceover and pictures, but I said that's not going to be fun. I figured, wouldn't you guys much rather, I know I would, watch a video of someone inside an LFS showing me the actual fish? So that's what we're going to do today. I've drove here to my LFS. You guys have probably seen a video me featuring this LFS. It's Fish Frenzy down here in Temecula. So I figured what better time to show you guys some fish, help you guys out, especially your new reefers in there, to see what type of fish and maybe what you should be looking for when you're getting new fish. Before I do begin this video, I want to have a little disclaimer. Before you do end up adding your first initial fish, obviously make sure your tank is cycled beforehand. You know, typically that'll take you anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes 2 weeks. I've seen with some certain chemicals or the bacteria in bottles, but generally speaking about a month is a good period to wait. You're also going to want to make sure, number two, you're going to want to make sure you have your cleanup crew. So I'm not going to cover any of those two first things on how to cycle, nor am I going to cover what cleanup crew or any of the certain types you can get. In this video, I'm going to assume your tank's already cycled, and obviously you already have your cleanup crew inside your reef tank. You're going to notice yourself walking into your local fish store and you're going to say, I want one of each, right? Well, we got to be very careful. When adding your first fish to your reef tank, you do not want to offset the bioload and the bacteria that's obviously already somewhat established from the cycle. Pretty much, we don't want to add more fish than our biological filtration can handle in the reef tank. Generally speaking, it's a pretty good rule of thumb that I go by. For every 10 gallons, I typically don't like to add more than 3 to 4 fish for at least the first 2 weeks. Give it about 2 weeks for the bacteria to colonate, to settle, to acclimate, and then you can go back and add a few more fish. I think one of the hardest things is going to be when you walk into the LFS is going to be resisting all the fish they do have, because again, you're going to want to be adding one of each. For a beginner that is watching this video, and let's say you have a 10-gallon tank, or you're going by the 10-gallon rule, 3 to 4 fish per 10 gallon, you're probably saying, so what fish can I keep? Now, although we want to keep pretty much every fish in here, we want to make sure that we start with something that's pretty hardy, that's pretty easy to take care of, and more importantly, that's a good size for a reef tank. I'd say the number one common fish that you'll see always added, and it's very easy to have, is going to be a clownfish. So adding clownfish, it's pretty easy. Once you do acclimate them, they do a pretty good job. They'll start eating typically within the same day. But it's also very important that you look at the health of the fish. It's very hard to do any test on these fish to make sure they're healthy. Really, all we have to go by is what we can see and to make sure they are eating. So a few things I like to look for is make sure that the skin on them looks pretty nice, no ick, no white spots. Also, another thing I'll look for is the eyes. Make sure the eyes look nice and clear. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to ask them to feed them in front of you before you do take them home. Second on the list is for sure, I think, going to be the yellow belly damsel. Now, one thing I do want to say is be careful with what damsels you get. You're going to do some reading and find that they're not good, they're very aggressive. I found the yellow belly ones I haven't had issues with. I've actually used them in multiple tanks without any problems. The ones I have had problems with, and I don't know, are these guys here. The yellowtail. Those are the ones I would certainly try to stay away from. But these guys, again, every fish is unique, but I've never had any issues with this, which is why I recommend these. Again, very hardy. Typically, they'll start eating the first day. and they're not very hard to take care of. Third on my list is going to be the cardinals, and that's these bad boys here. You can see 3 of them. Super easy. They don't do a lot of swimming. They kind of just stay in the middle of the water, and they kind of just do what they're doing right now. They float. They're actually very easy to even get to breed in your reef tank. Now there's 2 versions of these fish. You can go with these, or if you like these, the pajama cardinals, you can also go with those. Both are very nice. Both are very easy to keep and very inexpensive. Number 4 on my list is going to be the firefish. I had actually never tried these fish for whatever reason till I had the mode 50. Once I tried them, I fell in love with them. They were very easy. They kept them themselves. They kind of stayed in the middle of the water column. Were pretty easy to keep. Started eating in the first day. Add a good splash of color, and yet again an inexpensive fish. Last on my list, and I think this is probably the most inexpensive, is going to be the yellow-green chromis. That's these bad boys here. These are also very good to add as schooling. You can add multiples of them if you obviously have a bigger tank. Some of you may say they don't have too much color. Actually, under blue lighting, which is the lighting we use for our corals, they look a lot nicer than they look here under white. And just like I mentioned earlier, with all these fish, make sure they have no spots on them, no cuts on them, just nothing that looks as if they're not doing good. It's a plus if you can get the shop to get them to feed in front of you, because obviously that's at least going to show you that they are eating. I know this list can kind of be endless when it comes to easy fish. I just tried my best to go with at least the 5 common fish that I typically see people go with, and also ones I have gone with, so I can certainly recommend them with certainty, as I've had great success with them. So guys, that's going to conclude this week's episode. I again really wanted to make this video for a lot of you newer reefers out there that are starting out, especially with the whole coronavirus going on. I could see a lot more people getting into the hobby, so I thought it would be great to pump out a video to help you guys getting into it. There is going to be some variations. Again, every fish has its own personality. You may get one that's pretty aggressive, but generally speaking, the fish I showed you guys today are 1, inexpensive, and 2, very easy to keep and will have a high probability of surviving in your reef tank. If you guys do have any questions, comments, or maybe other recommendations of fish that you've tried with great success, please be sure to leave it down in the comment box below. I thank each and every one of you very much for watching. As always, happy reefing.